there, I'm Anne, and this is my booktube channel. In other words, the channel I have not uploaded to in close to 2 months. My mental health has been a skydiver without a parachute that landed on the desert with no water or safety net, or anyone that knows you're landing on the desert the last few weeks. It's been indescribable, but that is fine. We are back. I'm doing slightly better, and I just had to do the mid-year freakout tag. I have done this tag I want to say 2 to 3 years over on my blog, which I will link all the posts down below with the original creator of the tag. But I enjoy this. It's 13 questions that make you reflect on your first half of the year, all the books you read, yada yada. I'm clearly very late with this tag, but I'm only counting books from January to the end of June to keep it authentic and real, I guess. I'm so sorry it's late, but again, brain not there. So let's get on with the questions. Question 1 is best book of 2021 so far. I have a double answer for this, which is to be expected, seeing as by the end of June I read 99 books, which I agree, very unsatisfying number. But I didn't realize, so it's fine. It's fine. But the first one is very niche, which is The Royal Diaries by Hilary Burton Morgan. This is a memoir by an actress who is best known for her roles in The Walking Dead and One Tree Hill, mainly One Tree Hill. I read this because of the One Tree Hill star. And I was just expecting a standard memoir, possibly ghost-ridden, maybe some interesting facts about the show they were in or the movie, Hollywood gossip. I'm there. But instead, I got this very flawlessly written book that had such cottage, homey feels, if that's the best way to describe this. I don't know. But if you've read Alice Hoffman, it had that vibe to it. It felt very loving and raw, but beautiful, almost like honeycomb, where it's raw but it's sweet. That's what it felt like. It's about her and her husband deciding to pack up from the LA or Hollywood lifestyle, can't fully remember, and going to a small town where they buy a house in the middle of nowhere, learning to live off the land, grow their own flowers, make their own food. It's just so beautiful. It's an entire vibe. Like, remember those Tumblr pictures where you'd have the 6 pictures and it was like my aesthetic? It was just beautiful, and I really enjoyed how raw she was about her struggles to get pregnant for her second child and her marital problems with living so far away and feeling so alone with running the farm when he had to work, and her depression, which no one seemed to understand around her. And it was just a beautifully written book. If you are unaware of the actress or you have no interest in the actress, I would still recommend this book if you enjoy those small town feels, something raw and beautiful, and just something where you'll learn things. Like, this book has recipes for dandelion wine, which I have no interest in drinking, but I do want to try and make. Pickles, like recipes to make your own pickles, how to keep a packer alive. Like, it has everything I would recommend. My second favorite book of 2021 will come as no surprise to anyone that knows my reading taste, and that is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a almost mystery contemporary, in a sense, about 4 siblings who every year throw this huge party that everyone wants to attend. And this year, on page 1 of the book, you find out it ends in fire. The flames are going everywhere. And throughout the book, it's mainly set around the party. So almost a 18-hour period, the entire book. But you do have flashbacks for all of the siblings to when they were younger, which builds the character arcs for each of them. And I love this. I know some people have, iffy reviews about it, but I think that's mainly down to the pacing. It is very off, and it's very different from her other mainstream books such as The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six. It is quite different, but her skill of writing a large group of characters while keeping them all authentic and seeming like individuals is what always draws me in. I get so confused with any book where there's a large character list. There's so many characters and they all sometimes blend together. Whereas I feel like Taylor Jenkins Reid does a very good job at making each character stand on their own. And one of the characters will appear later in this tag. The next question is best sequel you've read so far in 2021. Now for this, I had to go with Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. I adore the Brown sisters. I won't say trilogy, but I'm really hoping for a series because I need a book about the aunts, how they met, their origin, romance. Like, I need that. That sapphic romance in my life, written by Talia Hibbert, my heart sings. I need that. But Act Your Age, Eve Brown is the third installment of the series. If you're already unfamiliar, or if you are unfamiliar with the series, which I find very unlikely, seeing as BookTube is raving about it on all corners, but this is a romance contemporary series about three sisters, Chloe, Danny, and Eve, and each book follows each of them finding love. And what I love about this series so much is that though the romance is one of the main elements of the plot, I love that each book mainly focuses on the sister, her growth as a female, her career, her likes in life, her family. It's not solely her building herself on this romance. Act Your Age, Eve Brown is about Eve Brown, who has been cut off from her parents financially as she's very depending on them, and she looks to find a job, and she finds a job in this like B&B almost in the middle of nowhere, maybe a small town, not fully. My brain isn't fully there. I read this very early on in the year as I had an arc through NetGalley, but she finds a job in this B&B and she's cooking. The owner of the B&B is very grouchy but lovable, and romance ensues. I really enjoyed this as Eve Brown has been the most vulnerable of the Brown sisters, I'd argue, though she still keeps that snarky edge that Chloe and Danny had, and I thrived in that. The book made me never look at a sparkly purple object in the same way. But I love that. Like, I love a memorable book. And Take a Hint, Danny Brown was my favorite from the series, but this is really edging over. Like, if I reread the entire series, which I'm very tempted to do, I feel like this could go over Take a Hint, Danny Brown. My only problem with it was that the miscommunication trope played a little too hard near the end, but the outcome was still flawless, and I loved how in this book you saw all of the family together more than you have in the previous books, and it was wonderful. Next up, we have most anticipated release most anticipated release that has been released that you haven't read yet. Let me check. Next up, we have new release that you haven't read yet. And for that, I have to go with The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I just got this as an audiobook through my library, which I'm so thankful for. I've been on that waiting list since it came out, and I started off at 70-something. Insane. But I have no idea what the plot of this book is, so I'm sorry. But if you would have asked me in 2019, I'd say Kristen Hanna was one of my favorite authors, but I'd read The Nightingale by her to begin with, which I adored. It led me onto an entire historical fiction binge. It was flawless. And then I read Firefly Lane and Fly Away. Both I adored. Netflix adaptation, wouldn't watch, hated it. But then I went into her backlist. So I read True Colors, which is the most fatphobic book I've ever read. And then Home Again, which had a priest, a brother, and a girl, and it was like a love triangle, cheating. I hated it. It seemed so problematic, I didn't even want to touch it with my pinky. And then I read The Great Alone, which was her release right before The Four Winds, like a year difference, but it was her newest release before that. And I just didn't enjoy it. It was very slow. I read it within 24 hours, so if anything, it should have seemed faster. I don't know about you, but if I read a book in a short period of time, I'm more forgiving for the slow pace. Like, if I was reading this in my own time and not for a readathon, it probably would have taken me like over a week, 2 weeks, which is unheard of for a book for me. I read a lot of books. I'm a fast reader. But the survivalist element in the story just didn't work for me. I didn't like the characters. I don't know whether it was because I read this and Educated by Tara Westover quite close together, but I doubt it. I just didn't fall for any of the characters. And the only thing that made me like the other Kristen Hanna books I read was the characters, the character growth, the interactions with them all, the like comedic elements almost. Like, I really enjoyed that, whereas The Grade Alone just didn't have that. So for the Four Winds, I was reluctant to pre-order it in case I hated it. Like, if I see it at a library sale or a used bookstore before I get the audiobook, I'm likely to pick it up. But yeah, I'm hoping I'll love it, but so far, like, I'm just gonna read it through my library. I will let you know. Next up, we have most anticipated release for the last half of the year, and for this I have to go with The Book of Magic by Alice Hoffman. I adore Alice Hoffman. Her writing speaks to me. It's poetic, it's magical, it's beautiful. It's like a warm hug with a cup of tea. I just adore it. And this is the last book in the Practical Magic series. Last year, the Magic Lessons by Alice Hoffman, that was one of my favorite books of the year. I'm lucky enough to be I can read an arc of it on NetGalley, so I'm really excited for that. But I've also, from the synopsis, I gathered that all of the generations are going to intertwine in this one to break the curse. So I feel like a reread might be in order of Practical Magic, Rules of Magic, Magic Lessons, and now the new one. So maybe vlog material. Would you like to see that? Is anyone else interested? I don't really see anyone else talk about this series, so I'm just very excited. Next up, we have a bit of a downer, which is the most disappointing book of 2021. And for this, it breaks my heart, but I have to go with The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This book just did not work for me. Everyone on BookTube and Bookstagram and Book Twitter loves this book. They find it so spooky, so atmospheric, and the writing they find beautiful, and I was just so bored and I feel terrible. I listened to this through Libro FM, their influencer program, but I also tried to physically read it when I got out the library, and it just didn't work for me. I DNF'd it 4 times before I actually managed to read it all the way through, which is a sign. I should have given up, but everyone loves this. My husband gave this 5 stars. It was one of his favorite books of last year, but it just did not work for me. This is about a group of men, guys, I think they're in their late teens, early 20s, when they kill a herd of deer, elk, a mix, I think. I can't fully remember. But they kill a group of them, and then you jump forward to when they're all adults and they're being haunted by these dead creatures. And they're slowly dying off because of the herd. And you go through different sections of the book following each character. And I know I wasn't meant to like all of the characters. They're all dislikable. It's understandable. But I hated all of them to the point that I was bored. I did not give a hoot what happened to anyone. I didn't fully buy the haunting. It seemed very try hard. The writing was so dry, it almost gave me Stephen King vibes in books such as Pet Sematary, which I know so many people love. So if you enjoyed that, maybe give this book a go. But I just felt closed off from the entire book. I was bored. I didn't buy anything that happened, any scary element. I was rolling my eyes. And I tried both physically and the audiobook, so it just wasn't a book for me. I gave it 2 stars. I know so many people love it, so if you have any other trustworthy readers and they enjoyed it, maybe give it a go, but it just wasn't for me, and I'm so disappointed about that. Next up, we have Biggest Surprise of 2021, and I had to really think about this because my entire genre reading thing has changed throughout the year. But I feel like I have to go with the Shadow and Bone trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. Was this one of my highest rated books or series of the year? No. But I really did not expect to enjoy this as much as I did. This is, of course, the series that led to the Netflix adaptation, which me, like half of BookTube, had to reread before the TV show. Have I watched the TV show since reading the books? No. So, complete waste of my time in that respect, but it's fine. So, this is about a girl, Elena, always get her name wrong. I haven't watched the show, so no one said it to me. Who has a power, and it's a love triangle, and yada yada yada. You know the plot by now. But I just really had a good time. It was very reminiscent of books I would have read as a teenager, like in my Evermore, House of Night, Fallen era. I probably would have read this and enjoyed it. It was fun. I love Nikolai. I like the Darkling. Mainly the two characters I enjoyed, but that's fine. But Buddy read this with Megan, who I will link down below. But it was just fun. Like, it made me realize how fun some YA fantasies are, as I kind of went out of the loop with those for a long time because I outread myself, basically, or overread myself or something. But yeah, were the characters like so well developed and well written? No. Did the entire series have any like plot holes? Yes. Did it end just for a new series to begin that I haven't read? Yes. But it was just fun. I enjoyed myself and I read them very fast. And it was just like very, yes, I read a trilogy. You know? It was just fun. And that led me into picking up more like paranormal YA romances that I would have read as a teenager, but I feel kind of bad of. Or I feel bad to pick them up now since I have so many adult contemporaries or literature on my shelf or whatever. But sometimes you just need a good time with a book, even when you know it's gonna not be well aged and the characters are gonna be meh. It's fun to read them. Like last year I read the Selection series by Kira Cass, I believe, and it was just fun. Like, I need to get more okay with just reading fun books. It's fine. Next up, we have Favorite New Author, which I have to go with Emily Henry, who wrote Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation. I read both of these books within around 3.5 weeks of each other, and I really enjoyed myself. And this leads me on to my next question, which is newest fictional crush, which is a question I change every year to newest fictional couple. So my OTP of books I read so far in this year. And that has to be Poppy and Alex from People We Meet on Vacation. I adored this book. I read both of these books fully on the influence of Emma Tobias, who kept talking about them on her Twitter, and I'm easily influenced, and I love a rom-com. So I read them, and People We Meet on Vacation just hit different. I adore Poppy and Alex. If you didn't know, this is a book about, I have a cat hair in my nose, cat owners. You feel it, me. Ugh. But People We Meet on Vacation is about Poppy and Alex, who are two people who met in university, and every year they went on vacation together. And for a few years they haven't spoken. Poppy is feeling very hard done by her job. She's unenthusiastic for anything, travel, love, friendship, anything. And she thinks the only thing that will help her is to go back on vacation with Alex in the way they used to when they were young. He agrees, and things start to go wrong straight off the bat on their vacation, but slowly we learn what happened to make them estranged in the first place. I really enjoyed this book, one, because of the banter. The banter was flawless. It was very snarky, it was funny, I laughed, I cried, it was great. And throughout that vacation, like current then, when they're on vacation, you get flashbacks starting from their first vacation together, leading up to the vacation we're on. So the book really makes you work for the information of why they're not speaking on their current vacation, if that makes sense. I was invested. I adore Poppy as a character. She was hilarious. I just had fun. I really bought their relationship and their friendship, which is strange for me because sometimes in these kind of books, it's hard to believe that they're friends before they become a couple. Like, they already have that sexual chemistry, they have that thing. Whereas I think Emily Henry did a really good job at writing them as friends before they became a couple. Like, their sexual attraction to each other didn't really show until at least 40% of the book. And I enjoyed that. It was fun. It was a slow burn. It was almost like friendship to enemies to lovers, but it was friendship to not friends to friendship to enemies to lovers, if that makes sense. It was great. If you enjoyed the works such as The Hating Game by Sally Throne, and even the Brown Sister trilogy, because this one also had a very deep underlayer like the Brown Sisters trilogy, or series, I would recommend. Next up, we have favourite character, and for this I have to go with Nina from Malibu Rising by Sarah Jenkins Reid. I really loved Nina. She's the oldest sibling of the book, and to begin with, she's very cold, she's very dry, she's very closed off from you as the reader, and I enjoyed how the book made you work to understand her, and she was just had so many layers, and I feel like her character growth throughout the book was immaculate. She became so closed off and away from you that you'd think that she's just kind of the bridge character to make you understand the other characters, and then she just blossoms into this character that you feel for and you relate to and you just want to give a hug. I adored her character. Another reason to read Malibu Rising if you're putting it off. Just saying. Next up, we had a book that made you cry, and I know I said People We Meet on Vacation made me cry, but it was more of a like teary-eyed, like, oh, like very similar to Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. That made me like tear up but not fully cry. I'm ashamed to admit that no books have made me actually cry this year so far. I'm normally the girl that cries at every book. Whether happy, sad, nostalgic, I cry so easily. And this year I've been cold. Maybe I've turned cold-hearted, or maybe the books I'm reading are happier than normal. I'm hoping for the former, but we'll see. I will say that the book that did make me cry twice is Cheese Sweet Home, which is a manga about a very cute cat who gets adopted from being homeless and taken care of, and he meets another cat and the cat goes away, and that made me cry, but mainly from the like, oh, so cute. Like, maybe I was just hormonal, but it was so cute that it made me cry. So maybe that one would be my answer, which leads on to the next question, which is book that made you happy. And that would be Cheese Sweet Home. I read volumes 2, 3, and 4, which is the bind up, so it's like multiple stacks of the individual manga. And it's just so cute. Like, even if you don't read manga or even like graphic novels or anything like that, or comics or anything, this book is just so cute, especially if you're a cat owner. Like, Olive Cheese things will just make you laugh. I bought a Chi plushie straight after. Regrets? No. But it's just adorable, and if you just need something light that will fill the time, like for me, this is my version of Heartstopper by Alice. I want to say Hoffman, but I'm probably wrong. I'll link it here, but I'll put a picture here. But I haven't read that. I'm on the waiting list for the library, but people say it just makes their hearts warm and it's so cute. And for me, that's Cheese Sweet Home. So see if your library's got it. It'll be really short, so cute. If you're a cat owner, you'll relate to some of the things. It's just adorable. Adorable. Next up, we have the most beautiful book that you've bought or received in 2021. Now, I haven't been buying books. We've been in lockdown, yada yada. I haven't really gone anywhere. So I'm going to flip this question into the most beautiful book written that I've read. And that would be The Death of Vivek OJ. This was, I mean, the cover's beautiful, like, beautiful. But this is a book about a young man, Viva Koji, who's trying to find himself in a culture that won't accept him. He's trying to discover his sexuality and own it. He's trying to find, like, he likes to put girls' dresses on and he wants to kiss his boy best friend and he doesn't fully understand it. And it's about him, I mean, spoiler with the title, but his early years just discovering himself and trying to accept himself in an entire environment that won't accept him. This book is so lyrical, poetic, it's beautiful. Every page you could highlight something or tag something. It was done incredibly. Even though I knew the ending, I still was just so emotional. I had a big lump in my throat. It's one of those books that I'm reluctant to reread because the first read was so magical and touching that I don't want to jinx it. And yeah, it was just wonderful. If you've read A Little Life or you're reluctant to read A Little Life because of how heavy the themes are in that book, this might be a good stepping stone or something to read after A Little Life. It had very similar, my feelings were the same, but it was in a shorter amount of time, which might be easier to handle because it broke my heart reading A Little Life, but it did touch me and it stays with me, and I'm so thankful I read that book. So for me, this book was similar in that respect. So maybe give it a go. Maybe. Check out the trigger warnings first though, because there's a lot of heavy stuff in there. Next up, we have the last question, which is books you want to read before the end of the year or you have to read before the end of the year. And to that I say, do you have 9 years? Like, I want to read my entire TBR, like every reader does. But every year I do a, like, 21 and 21. So 21 books I read in, or I want to read in 2021. And usually they're backlist books. But mainly from, I think I have about 6 books left from that. And I'm currently reading one, which is The Little Friend by Donna Tartt, which I'm almost halfway through. It's very dense, very heavy. I think I'm enjoying it, but like with all Donna Tartt books, it's very dry and boring. A little bit boring. But with a story that's intriguing, so I'm keeping with it. And otherwise, I really want to read Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. Never read a Virginia Woolf in my life, but I have about 3 books that need me to know Mrs. Dalloway's story by Virginia Woolf to read these other books as they're based on Virginia Woolf writing Mrs. Dalloway. I feel like I just went in a whole circle. But yes, they're my 2 top priorities, and otherwise I just want to read more 5-star predictions, as I said in the beginning, and some more books by authors I already enjoy. So yeah, that's my mid-year wrap-up tag or freak-out tag or something. I hope you got this far. I understand if you didn't. I'm pretty boring and I'm so sorry that I've been vanished for so long. My brain just pooped and I was not there for it. But leave me a message or comment down below, either with a book emoji or like just tell me what book you really want to read before the end of the year. Like whether it's daunting, you're looking forward to it, you're anticipating the release, anything. What's the main book you want to read before 2022 hits, which is a very foreign sounding year. Like holy. Thank you for watching, and I will hopefully see you soon.